Welcome to Let's Talk Common Sense with me, Mike Omoniyi. This week we've got tons to get through. I'm going to try really hard to take you through everything. Let's just start with some headlines. Last week, just 7 days ago, we saw the forming of a new political party in Westminster, the Independent Group. Now, this party is a British centrist party. It's pro-EU political association, and it was founded by 7 founding members who basically defected from Labour and Conservatives, citing their dissatisfaction with the leadership of both parties and their approach to Brexit. Just to add a bit of spice in there as well. Some Labour members also left because they don't think Jeremy Corbyn can handle anti-Semitism. So we're going to get into that. Second big headline that dominated the news cycle was about Shamima Begum, who is a woman who left to join the Islamic State group. Well, let me slow down, there's lots of S's there. Who left to join the Islamic State group in Syria, right? And this week, Sajid Javid officially revoked her British citizenship. So she's not coming back, but maybe she is, because her family said they're going to fight this decision by Sajid Javid. And we're going to talk about what that might mean for other people who listen to this podcast, maybe thinking, I want to join ISIS. Well, let's see what's going to happen. And third but not least, or last but not least, Jesse Smollett, I think his name is, has been arrested in America for filing a fake police report. Now, this is the man who was, I think it was a key figure in the Empire web series. He's going to jail, it seems, but we don't know yet. But before we get into all of that, I want to just say a couple of things about this whole independent group thing, because that's the thing. The politics, or politics as we know it, is broken. Everyone knows that. We've kind of been saying that for a while now. I mean, this is why the Common Sense Network exists, because we think the mainstream media is broken. And they are right about that diagnosis. Unfortunately, a lot of young people, some listening to this podcast right now, do not care about politics. It's boring. It's over their heads. They just don't feel connected to it, and that's a problem, because a lot of people think politicians are just the same people in different, the same people in different suits, I think is something we say, right? So on that point, I'm game. I'm in. Independent group, you've got my ear. Let's listen. This is where I have a problem, and just to temper this, the jury is still out on this whole group, because they just formed. They're not even an official party yet. They're still a loose group, is what they call themselves. But here's my problem. You cannot be defined by what you are against. We learned this in the American elections just gone by. The Democratic Party was simply the anti-Trump party. Oh, when up Trump, vote for us. That's not a reason to get people to vote. And the same thing is true of this new party. Saying that we don't like the way Brexit has been handled doesn't necessarily mean you're going to give us new ideas. Everyone's super good at diagnosing the issue. What people aren't so good at, unfortunately, is prescribing how we change things, how we solve things. So I'm waiting with bated breath, I am, for this new group to come out with new, revolutionary political ideas, things that will get us all thinking different. But unfortunately, I don't think this is the case. And to add, there better be by-elections. Because if these guys defected, it means their ideas have changed, their desires have changed, and for that reason, they need to seek fresh endorsement, if you like, from the electorate. Otherwise, the system that they claim is broken, they're profiting from it. So that's my take on this whole new group. I'm joining the guest by someone. I'm just going to ask for you for your take first, Afshan, and then we'll find out a bit about who you are. What do you think about the independent group?
Sorry, the Funny Tinge group.
Hold on. I asked this before, but is your tinge funnier than my tinge?
Well, according to the independent group, yeah, because you're black and I'm funny tinged. Yeah. So, I think because it's ambiguous, it's tea-coloured or whatever you want to, yeah.
But what's your take on that? What's your take on them and everything?
I don't know. So I've been watching it a little bit. I watched it really closely when they first came out, and joined this party. And then I was a bit annoyed because they've come out recently and said that they're actually going to support Theresa May if a vote of no confidence comes up, which is slightly problematic because you've left Labour. Majority of them have left Labour. Some of them have left Conservatives to join the independent group. And they're essentially acting as Conservatives right now. So what are they doing? What are they actually going to do aside from campaign, 1 month before Brexit is supposed to take place, to not have Brexit.
Yeah.
Nothing really. They're not really going to exist.
So
after.
You're not convinced that these guys are going to change British politics the way they said they're going to change?
No. So when I was researching the first 7 founding members of the party, 5 of them had actually had a vote of no confidence with them in the last 6 months, and that's from their own members. So if they're already kind of feeling like they need to leave, and then they go and start their own little, I think of it a bit like Mean Girls. You can't sit with us kind of scenario where they're like, someone said to them, oh, we don't like you very much. We're thinking about ousting you from our friendship group, and they're like, well, hold on. I'm just going to start my new friendship group called the Independent Group, and we're going to sit on our own little table over here, and we're going to steal some members and make it cool enough and hip enough. And you're all going to be jealous, and that's essentially what's happened.
Well, see, I agree with you in that sense that there's a lot of potential here. We're seeing people who are speaking our language. They're saying what we always say, which is that the system's broken. I mean, look, no one cares about the system. People don't get involved. People don't vote. People are like, ugh, I don't care about politics. Listen, I've been involved in the political process since I was 12 years old. One thing I can tell you very openly is people don't care, right? And in terms of trying to kind of find out why people don't care, that's interesting, right? But these guys are saying what we are saying, what we are thinking. The next leap is that they start giving us ideas that actually solve or meet. But my phrase, like with most politicians, are they just saying things that they think is in season right now, and then they're just going to be the same men in different suits?
I think so. I mean, there's a couple of buzzwords going around in the past year. Echo chambers is one of them. And so is, things being broken and politics being broken. Just by saying that it's broken doesn't do anything. Absolutely. What are the solutions? How are you going to fix it? By putting together 7 Labour Party members and a couple of Tory members to try and, form a group that is what supposedly independent from the rest of politics? Not really, because the politicians, actually, some of them have been in post since the 1992. They are career politicians. They're not really independent in the way that they're thinking. Not independent in anything they're doing.
A lot of them are career politicians. But I guess, one thing I do kind of, commend them for is to step out of a party, to disobey the whip and say, I'm going to, just essentially risk a by-election, which is actually risking their job, quite frankly. Because of their conscience. For me, it's a pretty bold move. We know that small parties don't fare well in our new catch-all, two-party system where Labour and Conservatives unfortunately dominate the whole political process. To step out of that and say we want to start something fresh, something new, that's a big thing. And they did that on the basis of their conscience. So we hope. So. On that front, I commend them. And now, actually, based on other defections, they are now the 3rd biggest party in Westminster. Well, not in Westminster, but in terms of in England, at least, they have 11 MPs, which is the same as the Liberal Democrats. So that's quite. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. Also, I think I should probably note that the factors were from Labour, Conservatives, and the Cooperative Group, which is a kind of slightly small group. But anyways, that's that. Talk about some international news now. The Nigerian elections are currently taking place still.
Yes.
I was on Yanga TV a couple of days ago talking about them because they had been postponed. The Nigerian elections are very interesting.
Define interesting, Mike.
Well, I'll tell you what, without saying much, as an onlooker, if you like, I would love to know your thoughts on how the whole process is going. Do you know who's running? Do you care? What do you think about the Nigerian elections?
I'm going to assume that is potentially borderline offensive. The Nigerian elections for me are similar to the Pakistani elections in the way that they're run, in the way that nobody knows what we're talking about or who we're talking about. All we know is that it's a little bit of a mess. And then at the end we come out with...
A little bit, Afshan? It's very kind of you.
At the end we come up with a politician that we're all supposed to back and go behind, as is the case in Pakistan. And that's it. That's the end of that. So I find it very difficult to follow. Because the election was supposed to be last week or the week before, I think, and then they got postponed, and then there was talk about postponing them again. So I'm very confused as to what's going on.
This is the thing, like I was saying before, you don't postpone elections. It's not a children's party. It's not.
But if it's fighting corruption, if it's fighting and if it's about.
Well, this is the thing. So you've got a group called INEC, right? The Independent something for Electoral Commission. Essentially, their job is to ensure that the elections run fairly. Now, elections, I don't know if you know, in the presidential elections happen like every 4 years or so in Nigeria. Like they don't happen every single year. So they have a whole period of years to prepare for one event,
of course.
Right? So you'd hope that, and that's the whole reason they were designed, right? They've got lots of funding, they're adequately funded, they've never complained about money. So that they would fail on this account, and bear in mind, they didn't even apologize. It was like, well, sorry. And here's the thing you have to remember about Nigeria: people have to fly in to vote. because unfortunately they don't have any means for the diaspora to vote. People independently took flight to Nigeria to cast their vote, only to be told 5 hours before that sorry guys, because of bad weather, allegations of corruption or attempted sabotage, we actually cannot be part of we can't be part of the
hold on, wait.
Because of allegations of corruption, we can't carry on with okay, cool.
Right.
Essentially, what they were saying is because of allegations of corruption, bad weather, as it were, we can't carry on with the election. And just for those who are wondering, economically, that postponement cost the economy £1.15 billion.
I mean, I have to commend Nigeria for taking the decision to postpone something because of corruption, because I don't think that's a move that Pakistan would necessarily make or even admit in themselves that corruption was taking place. So we have to stop and pause and take a breath and go, what are we doing? Yeah. And maybe it's the main reason. Maybe bad weather was just an excuse to kind of like make the corruption seem not so bad to the Western eye. But I do think, I think it's amazing. I think it's great to be kind of go, wait a minute, we're not ready. We're going to postpone it. I would hate to think that they jump into something like particular Western countries have done in the past, into a vote where we then, we're uninformed. There was potential illegal stuff going on, maybe some corruption
Let's just
as
call
well.
it illegal stuff.
Let's just call it illegal stuff,
Dodgy
right?
stuff, just funny stuff.
That is a scientific term, I believe. And there's some corruption going on, like low level, but it was still taking place, and we still kind of rushed ourselves into a vote. So I do admire Nigeria for taking that decision, because now everyone's looking at them. Everyone's looking at Nigeria going, what is going on? Why are you such a mess? Why have you just postponed these elections? Why are you costing yourselves
1.15 billion.
I mean, anything over 1 billion is kind of like it's funny money.
It became a problem when it dipped over 1 billion. Afshan, that's the key. But I guess it's interesting because one has to be very fair to Nigeria as well. It's a young democracy, so this is what you expect from young democracy, for it to kind of have hiccups and issues here and there. But you expect it to kind of get better. In 2015, there was also a postponement, and that took 6 weeks. That one, but this time it was only a week. So maybe that's improvement.
You say young democracy. How young is?
Just over 60, I believe. I would imagine.
60 years?
So. Yeah.
That's not young.
So. That's quite young.
Is it?
For democracies, that's pretty young.
Is it really young?
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
Democracy, if you think started in Athens, like there's some democracies are super old, some are very young. And in terms of like the liberation, essentially, after the colonizers left us, they then kind of ushered in a new kind of feudal mindset, which still lingers on within the country and still has to leave. So, I mean, one has to be fair. But anyways, people are thinking, okay, here's this woman saying lots of stuff and speaking lots of sense, common sense. But who is she? Who is she? I don't think we've done that yet. We haven't actually introduced you. Actually.
No, you haven't.
But I do it on purpose because I think it's actually more fun to just hear people's opinions and then find out what they do than like the other way around. Because if you come in and you say, "Oh, I'm a scientist," people just kind of in their head are like, "Oh, she's a scientist." Okay, so whatever she says, it's going to be really scientific. And it's like, no, let's just hear like her speak and find out what she does, and let's see if it connects. So you tell us, Afshan, what do you do?
So I'm the editor-in-chief of the commentators Network.
Are you?
Yes. It's a small network. I don't know if you've heard about it, Mike. It's this really cool, it's an all right network, actually. It's not bad. You should Google them.
It's cool and all right. That cool, sounds like I'm sure your journalists listening to you going, yes, Afshan, that's exactly how you should describe us. But yeah, so tell me more. So you're the editor. What does that entail exactly?
Editing.
and chiefing.
Being the chief editor of the network.
Okay.
It means I've got to have vision. I need to see where it is we want to go with Scribe. Scribe is the journalistic side of the network. Sort of looking at to ensure that we've got different perspectives, to sort of make sure that we've got political news, particularly UK political news being covered in a way that is accessible to people, particularly millennials, making sure that we have alternative perspectives coming in. So I have a lot of like one-on-one conversations with the journalists. We've got about over 35 journalists that are writing for us at the moment, sort of having conversations with what direction they want to go. working out why they're not hitting their deadlines. If you're a journalist watching this and you haven't made your deadline, I will message you now. So please get on that. Thank you.
I guess the one thing that's so interesting, I'm going to pick you up on it, is this need for diversity. Because I hate to sound like we're borrowing from the independent group, because we actually existed before them.
Did we trademark the media is broken?
But I'll take a look at that after. Any lawyers listening, they should probably think about this. I mean, can we win some sort of legal battle? But that being said, the mainstream media is broken because unfortunately every political ideology has its own corner, if you like, and they sit in their corner and they basically advocate or advance their political dispositions, and essentially people who live there and listen to them, especially only them, builds this kind of weird echo chamber where they only listen to views they care about. And one thing we try and do, and one thing you're doing well, if I might add, is to try and foster an environment where people who hold different beliefs can come together and share, argue, debate, go back and forth and learn.
Yeah, but it's also to kind of allow a space to exist where people that have an alternative perspective are allowed to come in and say, hey, I don't believe this, or I believe X, or I believe Y. Last year I ran a session on media reform for young artists, and we talked about the Common Sense Network, we talked about the issues with the media at the moment and about perspectives and about ideologies. And at the end, one girl came up to me and she thanked me. And I was like, oh, amazing facilitator, clearly. But she kind of was like, I've never felt open enough. I've never felt safe enough in this space to out myself as someone who voted Brexit. Because in the arts, everybody voted to remain, because the European Commission provides like half the arts creative Europe funding is ridiculous. So she kind of was like, I've not been in a space in the arts so far where I felt safe enough to actually admit that I voted Brexit. So, and I was like, oh wait, this is why I'm doing this is why I'm writing and editing, is so that I can allow people to have that conversation. Because once she then admits that, we can then talk about why. We can talk about, what is it that led her to that decision, rather than her constantly being, performative and on the back foot, kind of going, I don't want to tell people that I voted Leave.
So this is so interesting because I know, during the vote, I had Snapchat at the time, and I was on Snapchat, and I remember seeing lots of friends like going to vote in the referendum, and I could smell the ones that were going to vote Leave. I could kind of tell. Now I won't tell you what I believe, but it was really interesting because I know for a fact, like, a lot of them are really scared to say where they vote. So when I asked them after, what did you vote? People are like, oh, that's between me and the ballot box. That's between me. And it's like, why? It's because we've created a culture where, unfortunately, in certain bubbles, we don't allow diversity of thought. We kind of go, if people think differently from me, they must be bad people. And this happened again. I was on a political show, and one of the guests was speaking about, I know you and X, Y, and Z are enemies, and I was like, enemies? They just disagree on a certain policy. They're not enemies. Like, one's not a bad person. There's no victory. Like, it's about convincing people that your idea is the right idea, or your idea would benefit the most people.
It stems from It stems from this idea that we are right and that what we believe is correct. We're not willing to kind of open up that conversation and go, wait a minute, let me actually question what it is that I think.
Exactly.
You just kind of go, well, I think it, therefore it must be true. And if you don't, you're right. If you don't agree with something, then clearly you're a bad person.
That's the key thing we got to get rid of. Conservatives are not bad. Left wingers are not, or Labour voters are not bad people or evil people. It's like, no, we've all got different ideas based on our lived experiences. And rather than just kind of hearing people's opinions, what's more interesting to me, at least, is find out where it comes from. I can still be wrong. Some people are super sincere and they're sincerely wrong, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, let's find out why you believe what you believe, at least, right? Let's move on to your book, because I know just last week your essay was featured in It's Not About the Burqa, which is a new book, a collection of 16 essays, I believe. 17 essays. By 17 wonderful women, I believe.
Yep, all Muslim women.
Tell me more about this book. What does it mean?
So it's not about the burqa.
It's not about the burqa.
It's not about the burqa. That's what it's called, and it's also not about the burqa. Essentially, it's in response to David Cameron's comments from a couple of years ago, where he he was speaking out Muslim women and said that they were traditionally submissive. And Mariam Khan, who's the editor of the collection with Picador, kind of was like, well, wait a minute. All the Muslim women that I know are not traditionally submissive. You know, you can be submissive if you want, but the idea that someone is traditionally submissive because of the religion or culture is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion, and it kind of has Islamophobic slants to it. Tinges to it, yeah. That's another kind of tinge.
To borrow a term from the famous.
You know, we were a little bit early, otherwise it would have just been called the Funny Tinge book. So the essays are 17 women that are ranging from journalists, teachers, activists, sort of TV presenters, you know, politicians. We've got a range of people in that anthology, and myself, of course, who are sort of writing about our experiences without having someone dictate the narrative to us.
And your particular essay was about what particularly?
My essay was about being a part-time hijabi, about my on and off relationship with wearing a headscarf, and my sexuality, and how I have found peace in understanding what my own religion is through that experience.
Yeah, it was super good. I mean, I came to the book launch, and it was amazing. Like hearing different women come up and speak and be so bold, and I mean, they didn't. I mean, a lot of the women who spoke did not really care about who was in the audience. They were just kind of speaking their minds, and they were talking about their, they just aired out their frustration. And what I love about it is Nikesh, who I don't know if he wrote the foreword or kind of gave.
He wrote the blurb. Nikesh Shukla.
He wrote the blurb.
Yes.
Nikesh Shukla, the editor of The Good Immigrant. He said that the book was, if I remember correctly, was angry, was compelling, and it was that, and it was good to kind of see that, and I look forward to reading. I think it's going to be a great read.
Something that Mariam says in the introduction is that these aren't finished stories, they're not finished essays. They're all the beginnings of a conversation.
Good.
And what that launch event essentially did was allow us to have that conversation in public. There are certain things that we're not allowed to talk about. There are certain things that we don't talk about because, you know, they're taboo. So, for example, talking about sex, or talking about wanting to take off the hijab, or talking about, you know, not being as religious as one is supposed to be Islamically. You know, we don't really talk about those things, and it's nice to have that space run by Muslim women, dictated by Muslim women, about Muslim women and their experiences.
It was good. Let's move on to another topic. Jesse Smollett.
Smollett? Is it Smollett?
This one was quite interesting because I don't watch Empire, just to put it out there.
I did. For the first 2 seasons, then it kind of like it disappeared.
I don't watch it, so I was kind of like, who's this guy? But I'm aware that he's like a singer and he's part of the I think he's gay. He's part of the LGBTQ plus community. So I remember just seeing him, and I was like, okay, cool. And then he kind of gave us a story about, you know, how he was attacked, and you know, a group of white men, he said, or 2 white men rather, with MAGA hats tried to kind of kill him because he would all pour bleach on him or something, essentially, because I think he said he was going to Subway at 2 a.m. Anyways, he said the story, which I think people didn't really look into too much. People just started posting pictures of him, and that's how I first knew about the story, because people kept on posting pictures on their Instagram, like, oh, I'm with Jesse Smollett, or I stand with Jesse Smollett, or like, he's an amazing person. People, like, literally everybody was posting, even like gangster rappers in Chicago, like, I'm with Jesse. I'm not gonna do other.
That was a really, really bad accent.
No, I did a Jamaican accent on my Snapchat the other day, and Jamaicans just like an army came to me like, stop, take this down, and I was like, I'm just having some fun. Anyways, lots of them were supporting him and saying, yeah, you know what, I believe in him, and now we found out it was all a lie. He staged the attack.
There's two things with this. So first, okay, hold on. Let's take this slow, okay? Let's go slow. So there's 2 things with this. Initially, when it first came out that he was allegedly beaten up by these 2 people, there were 2 reactions. One was the music community and the entertainment sort of Hollywood, as it were, kind of coming out in his defense, calling out racism and calling out homophobia within the community and larger in the world, and also this kind of understanding of, or recognition actually, of MAGA supporters or Trump supporters kind of endorsing these views. That was one section. The other side of it was people that were, this is prior to any of the news coming out, already criticizing and questioning Justin for his actions, and kind of, you know, there was a lot of homophobic kind of reaction to him. There was a lot of racist reaction to him. He got what he deserved, that sort of thing. Those conversations were occurring as well on Twitter. So when it came out that actually now, it turns out that he did lie, the reaction has doubled in terms of like the homophobic and the racism towards him. In that now it's like, he's just making it up. You know, he's a boy that cried wolf. No one's ever going to believe any other homophobic attack because Jesse Smollett has apparently ruined it for everybody.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, this is where we might have disagreement because I don't necessarily think. Well, one, I didn't see those arguments personally. I think it might be based on who you follow on Twitter or something, right?
Step out of your echo chamber, Mike.
Yeah. Clearly, I need to step out. But I think I'm pretty out there, to be fair. I kind of consume a lot of crazy stuff. Like, I'm aware of the political spectrum broadly. But anyways, that being said, but I do think he set the movement, if you like, back a couple of steps by doing this. This is the LGBTQ movement. Because he willingly staged his own attack. He wrote a letter to himself, threatening himself. And he did all of this. He used being gay and being black as collateral, if you like, in a ploy to get more recognition and money for his acting in a web series.
Yeah, it's not web. It's a TV. Sad. It's a TV series, not a web series.
Well, it's on TV.
It's on TV.
Okay, cool. My bad.
It's on TV, but he was getting $20,000 per episode, where his co-stars were getting $175,000.
And how is that relevant?
It's not. It's just.
I'm trying to work out. Are you trying to say because of that?
No. I'm not trying to justify him at all or justify his actions.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand why he would do that and why he would use something that is so sensitive in terms of him being a black man, in terms of him being a gay man. Why he would use that as, in order to essentially incite violence against himself to get more money. It seems. I don't know. The story is still progressing. I feel like we're not there yet. We haven't got the truth just yet.
I think it's pretty clear. Like the police department spoke about, and bear in mind, his lawyers still have to make their. I mean, let's be clear about one thing. He's being tried right now in the court of public opinion. He still has to be tried properly, and I think that based on what the police report said, it's quite clear what happened. And they don't release anybody. They released the two men who were apparently suspects because they said that there was enough evidence to kind of convict him essentially.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of money wasted as well. I mean, trying to understand him, I think, is really important because, like yourself, I thought to myself, okay, cool. If there's such a pardon me, if there's such a massive imbalance, if you like, in how much money he was earning, then maybe that. And it's like no, it actually still doesn't legitimize.
No, it's not legitimizing at all. No.
But that's the thing. So he has to have something wrong with him. He's got to be a sociopath. He's got to. I mean, there's got to be something there that leads you to do that, like that kind of calculated planning of attack and abuse and staging things. And apparently days before they drove around like looking for the right police camera to use, and he pointed out the one he wanted them to, and he's like, this is just way too calculated for it to just be I'm angry about my pay.
The problem is that we're focusing more on on him and the lies that he's told, as opposed to focusing on the many people that do get abused for being gay or for being black, and or both.
I think we're focusing on that because that's what you.
No, absolutely. But even no, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the first reaction that came out, the dividing people. I did notice a lot of people already questioning and kind of going, "Oh, this can't have happened because MAGA supporters don't do X, Y, and Z." The truth is that MAGA supporters do it. They just don't get the publicity. We just don't talk about it in the news. Yeah. It's just not reported in the same way that it's reported with Jesse Smollett. It's reported with him because he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm still working this one out in my head.
Okay. I see where you're coming from there. However, he did set up an interview with like Good Morning Britain.
Of course. No, I know.
Sorry, not Good Morning Britain. Good Morning America.
Yeah.
And he was like crying. And this is the craziest part.
I know.
He is such a good actor.
He is.
Like I was like, this is like he's literally channeling something he went through. I don't know what it was. Just sat there crying and be like.
But we don't know. There might have been some truth. There might have been some truth in it, and he's just exaggerated. I don't believe
we know the story. There is no truth in it. Like we know the story. There's like he even paid him by check. He paid his abuse. Like it's so. I mean, it
just feels so stupid and idiotic that it can't. I'm just trying to put it. I'm just like,
I got you. I agree with you there.
How stupid can you be?
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. It's kind of hard to. It's weird. I'm thinking this can't be the case.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but there you go. I think it speaks more broadly to this social media culture we live in, though, where everyone wants to be validated and to be seen as the right and the winner of any argument. But
also, I think it's an important discussion that we're having in the UK right now in terms of he's acted like a victim so that we would support him. Yeah. Whereas there's another person in the UK currently going through something very different who, because she's not acting like a victim, we're not empathizing with her.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we might talk about her later on in the show, but
Who's this?
Shamima Begum.
Have we not spoken about her yet?
We haven't spoken about her now.
Unbelievable. Okay, well, right now we're talking about Shamima Begum.
Good Lord.